and welcome into Loftside Banter. We are here with Week 4 review. We also are going to have a new segment coming up. We're going to call it the Anti-Narrative. And what that segment will be something that I've seen over the last couple of days, weeks, whatever it may be. I have a couple lined up that there seems to be a narrative with sports writing and articles and stuff like that, and it's ones that I disagree with. It could be completely, it could be at least a little bit, but we're going to call it the Anti-Narrative. We'll debut that today, and then we'll take a look at the couple of game ones that we had in the Major League Baseball playoffs. The Red Sox and the Yankees faced off, the Reds and the Dodgers. We also had a Detroit and Cleveland play, the Tigers and the Guardians, and the Cubs and the San Diego Padres. So those are the games that happened last night. So we'll go into our Week 4 review. I'll try to make them a little bit quicker so that way the whole episode isn't necessarily just about football. Now, football season is obviously in full swing. We're at that 4-week point where I say we kind of know what each team kind of looks like for the most part. This was typically the quarter of the season was gone. So we'll take a look at those. We'll start off with the game we always start off with because the first one that pops up on ESPN for me is the New England Patriots against the Carolina Panthers. Now, this was a demolishing by the Patriots, and this is what I expected to see as far as growth. They're playing a bad team. We know that. The 42-13 scoreline proves that they played a bad team. And the Patriots came out. Drake May was 14 of 17 for 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. As near as perfect as you can get for young Drake May. And he's looked pretty good coming up through these few games. And again, mistakes and self-inflicted wounds, as we heard Mark Schiller say on the broadcast almost consistently, or constantly, I guess, that self-inflicted wounds were the things that the Patriots were, why they were 1-2. And their 1-2 record didn't really reflect that. So I'm happy with where they're at with the growth of this team. There are still things that they're gonna struggle with. That opening possession for Carolina, it looked like it was gonna be a long day for the Patriots defense. They cracked down. From the other perspective of Carolina, again, this is another one of those step backs. It seems like for Bryce Young, and he didn't play awful. He just didn't play well. 18 of 30, 150 yards, about 5 yards of reception. He did have 1 touchdown. He got sacked once, but he didn't turn the ball over. And I don't think there was any turnovers, was there? Let's take a look. No interceptions, no fumbles. Yeah, no turnovers of any kind in this game. So for both teams to not make those mistakes, I mean, that's a positive. But again, you, as the Carolina defense, you couldn't stop anything. Even with running backs who had fumble issues and they were on the back foot and being criticized in the media and everything else like that, you couldn't do anything with that. So Patriots look good. They're up against the Bills on Sunday night. This is a test of how close are you to Buffalo. And I don't think it's very close. I think this will be kind of one of those, hey, let's take a look at it and let's assess kind of where we're at. Now, there's different schemes and stuff like that you can do against Buffalo. Buffalo, obviously, we'll get into their game in a little bit, but struggled a little bit with the Saints for a little while. But then, Josh Allen just understands that he's the best player on the field and he can do whatever he wants. But good position for the Patriots to be in at 2-2. You're probably going to 2-3 after week 5, but you're in a good spot to be in that second place in the AFC East. It's yours really to lose. Miami, again, we'll get into that game as well, but we'll take a look now at the Dublin game, the first ever game in Dublin, Ireland, between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Minnesota Vikings. Pittsburgh still confuses me, man. Like, they just weren't, they're not a team that I look at and really have my finger on the pulse with them. They look good in various stretches. The game against the Patriots last week, the first 2 drives were touchdowns. After that, they couldn't move the ball almost exclusively until, even with all the turnovers, they couldn't move the ball. Here they went through stretches where it didn't fit. They didn't seem like they knew what they were doing. Kenneth Gainwell got the surprise start, looked really good, 19 carries, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns on my bench fantasy team. Thank you. They scored 7 points in each quarter, except for the fourth quarter where they only scored 3. And then the defense looked great through 3 quarters, only giving up 6 points, and then all of a sudden they gave up 15. Carson Wentz had to throw the ball 46 times through 2 interceptions. Again, if you're having Carson Wentz through 46 passes right now, you're in a lot of trouble. We'll see what happens with J.J. McCarthy. He traveled with the team, but they knew he wasn't going to play. He has a newborn at home. Thought it was kind of a weird situation. Again, being around the team probably isn't that bad for any young player. DJ Metcalf had a great game, averaged over 25 yards a catch. A couple of fumbles throughout the game, quite a few fumbles throughout the game. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers will go through a quarter and a half of looking like they're a dangerous team, and they're going to make some noise in the division, maybe have a better, all the stuff you could possibly say. And then they just disappear. It's such a great magic act at this point of the season. You're 4 weeks in, and I'm sitting here and I'm telling you I can't really put my finger on what this team is. They're 3-1. We knew they were going to win against bad teams. We knew the veteran presence was going to be enough to get past a lot of these bad teams. The AFC's wide open. You have Buffalo. You have the Chiefs. You have, I guess you can count the Ravens in a talented team, but they are 1-3. It's a huge drop off from like the Bills and the Chargers, a drop off to Kansas City and Pittsburgh and teams like that. It's wide open. Any given Sunday, any team can beat any team. And the thing with the Steelers is they have that talent that they're going to beat these bad teams and they're going to win close games against teams that are probably similar in stature, I guess. But outside of the 5 turnovers last week, they were going to get blown out. If New England had any concept of keeping their hands on the football, they would have blown out the Steelers. So what they look like right now is a team that's just, they're going to win those close games. They're going to frustrate you completely. And then from there, it's going to be, who knows? I think they're in the same position, though. The first round of the playoffs is where their ceiling is for me. And I've said quite a few times, I'm not scared of them. I'm not scared of what they've kind of done in the roster they've put together. I'm not scared of it. I'm still not. But they find ways to win, and you can't argue with it. You can't. I could sit here and tell you all day that they're going to lose to this team, this team, this team, this team, this team, whatever. But they're finding ways to win, whether it's causing turnovers, whether it's just doing enough to get a 3-point win, whether it's, that's who they are. So, again, 3-1. You can't argue with it. Next game. The Chargers went to New York to play the Giants with Jackson Dart as the starting quarterback. And for those of you going through this with me, the Chargers looked really good. Justin Herbert was on an MVP pace. They're going to play the 0-3 Giants with a rookie quarterback. And I'm in one of those survivor pools that I originally had the Chargers beating the Giants. I had zero faith in the Giants all the way around. But that little bit of unknown, rookie quarterback, high expectations, it's going one way or another. And for Jackson Dart and the Giants, they win 21-18. Not, again, any given Sunday. Anybody can beat anybody. Jackson Dart, 13 of 20, 111 yards and a touchdown. Again, not blowing the doors off the stat line. Cam Scatterbro, 25 carries, 79 yards. Jackson Dart averaged 5 yards a carry, over 5 yards a carry, 10 carries, 54 yards. Again, not really blowing everybody away with the stat line. But he put him in position to score, which is what Russell Wilson was not doing. It's fun to see these young players and the stat lines they're putting up. Cam Scatterbro, 48 carries, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns this season. Jackson Dart, obviously his first start. Theo Johnson gets a few catches as the young rookie tight end. There were 2 fumbles. Luckily, both of them were recovered. But Russell Wilson was in there for a very short period of time and fumbled. The defense played what we thought the Giants' defense could do and played very well, intercepting Justin Herbert twice. So the mix of the young talent and what you're kind of seeing from these teams and the expectations now of Jackson Dart and him coming in and winning this type of game and stuff like that is huge. Huge for the Giants. Again, I don't think it makes him a playoff team, but I think if he continues to get a couple of wins here or there like this, they can get up to 5 or 6 wins. I think Brian Daboll saves the job. And I said it last week. This was a move to save his job, and it worked out game 1. Now we have to see what they're doing for the next game. The Giants have the Saints up next. Very winnable game, obviously. The Eagles after that. The Broncos after that. The Eagles again. So your next 5 games, Saints are very much winnable. Your middle 3 with the Eagles, Broncos, Eagles. Tough. And then a very winnable game against the 49ers. 49ers are, and again, we'll get into all this, but again, out of the next 5 games, you got 2 that are winnable. All right. For a team that wasn't really expected to do a whole hell of a lot. Hey, to go say, hey, we'll be 3-6. Okay. You got to grow. You got to do all those different things. The people want instant gratification with all these young players and everything else like that. And I don't think Tom Brady said something like this recently, and I mentioned it last week. We're not in college programs anymore. We're just college teams. And the teams are just what you can put together for that season, and then everybody's going to go every which way with the transfer portal and draft and everything else like that. So the development of these players going from program to program to program, or whatever the case may be, is going to stunt growth on some of these players. And you're going to see, because we see a lot of young quarterbacks struggle. And it takes time. Josh Allen struggled early on. Caleb Williams obviously still kind of struggling. Jaden Daniels has had his struggles here or there, maybe few and far between comparatively to the other ones drafted around him. I mean, Drake May has had struggles. These are the things that we're going to see with young quarterbacks, and we're going to see it much more often, and it's going to look like the product is watered down. But you give it the time, and I understand the teams that don't want to do that. The Giants don't want to give time or don't want to rebuild for as long as they have. They want to win. Every team wants to win. But at some point in time, we all have to realize this is what we're getting. Unless we make some changes in the college game where you're only allowed to transfer a couple of times, which I think is something that you should consider. Medical or change of coach or something that maybe we... Again, this is a whole different other thing that we're kind of going down the road with. But this is a team that if you said at some point in time, over those next 5 games, you're now 3-6. Okay, I mean, you could have been worse, right? You wouldn't have told me with Russell Wilson that any one of those games was winnable. Because Russell Wilson, as I've mentioned time and time again, is past it. And I'm far better than me. Has always been far better than me. He's far better than some of the names out there. But this is Jackson Dart's team now. back to it. Box score for the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. Houston Texans win 26-0. Cam Ward, 10 of 26, 108 yards. Not great for number one overall pick. And again, growing pains and everything else like that, I get. Not great for Cam Ward. Not great. I threw an interception, sacked twice, ran for a total of 82 yards. The Tennessee offense was Alec Ayomayor, the rookie out of Stanford, who I really was hoping in the kind of fourth, fifth round the Patriots took a flyer on, has looked very good as the team's obviously 12 catches, 151, 2 touchdowns, averaging about over 12 and a half yards per catch. Again, for a stagnant offense and an offense that isn't playing very well, not bad numbers. And you have Calvin Ridley on this team. You have Tyler Lockett on this team. As far as the Houston Texans, 22 of 28 for C.J. Stroud, better than what we've seen from him. 233 yards, about 8 yards per catch, or 8 yards per pass. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's what you want to see from C.J. Stroud, who is still kind of stuck in this fucking maw of a sophomore slump almost. Woody Marks looked really good. 4th round pick out of USC for running back. Nico Collins, Woody Marks also scored a touchdown through the air. Jaden Higgins only has 5 catches but caught his first touchdown pass. Jalen Noel has not looked great as far as the 2 Iowa State wide receivers they picked up. And I liked them picking both of them, but Nico Collins is the guy. Dalton Schultz played 5 catches, 30 yards. Again, nothing to write home about. 2 sacks for Danielle Hunter. That's the guy you need to get going on defense. Derek Stingley with an interception. Another guy you need on that defense to really kind of step up. And got that interception this week. 2 different directions. They're going 2 different directions. The Houston Texans have been 0-3 before and made the playoffs. I'm not saying it's the place they want to be in, but they still have the ability to make some noise in this division. Tennessee, not so much. Tennessee is going to be around that area with the Saints, and they're going to be battling out for, a high draft pick again. Next, Commanders fall to 2-2 with a 34-20 loss to the Falcons. Michael Penix Jr. looked better, still threw an interception. Marcus Mariota, again, is playing in place of the injured Jaden Daniels. Probably weren't going to get the same amount of success that he had the week before. But a close game for a team that was missing their superstar. And again, superstar, relative term, but to me, Jaden Daniels has the ability to be a superstar. Their running game, better. And again, no scary Terry. Terry McLaurin did not play as well. So again, with the injuries they had and the things that the defense on the Commanders is still an issue, especially that pass defense. Marshawn Lattimore did not look great. Marshawn Lattimore, obviously former Saint, drafted high to be a shutdown corner, has not lived up to that. Obviously traded to the Commanders to give depth and better talent overall. Marshawn Lattimore needs to play better than that. There was acres of space between him and receivers sometimes. Next, Buffalo Bills, 31-19 win over the Saints. Not a surprising result. The Saints did cover, which if I think, where's my sticky note here? My predictions of covering and everything else were not great. So I hope you didn't follow me in any of that stuff. But we'll go over that. Spencer Rattler, again, he's not playing awful. 65 total yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Again, he's not making tons and tons of mistakes. But it does not seem that he's a starting quarterback. And again, you can tell he's 0 for his first 10. He's sacked 3 times, only threw for 126 yards. Josh Allen, 209 yards, so again, didn't blow him away in the stat line. Also threw an interception, whereas Spencer Rattler didn't. James Cook looked great. Kendry Miller had a lot of the success on the ground for the Saints. The Saints are going to be a team that hangs around and then finds ways to lose because that's what bad teams do. So I think they'll steal a few. And if we look at the Saints, I mean, they're playing the Giants next. Again, that's a winnable game from their perspective as well. Then the Patriots. I hope that's not a winnable game in their perspective. Bears, Bucks, and Rams after that. I think their first win comes in the next 3 games. And again, I hope it's not against the Patriots. But and then you have teams like the Dolphins, you have teams like the Jets still on the schedule and stuff like that. It's just tough to watch. It's a tough product to watch for New Orleans. I feel bad for all of them and stuff like that. But Buffalo, again, they know you pretty much going into this game know you're going to win, and you sometimes relax and you keep the game closer than because it was 14-10 at halftime, and that's too close for these teams. They shouldn't be anywhere that close. Next, we had the rivalry game, I guess, between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Eagles win 25 to go to 4-0. The Bucks were 3-0, so it was a battle of 2 3-0 teams. The Bucks have had great success against the Eagles as of recently as well. Mayfield played pretty well. Jalen Hurts throwing for 130 yards is pretty much what the expectation is at this point. He's not throwing for a ton each and every game. I think he threw for under 100 yards against the Chiefs. Baker Mayfield looked like he was going to lead them down the field to have at least a legitimate shot of beating them. Stalled. Bucky Irving's your leading receiver. Emeka Ibuka, head to me is the early runner for Rookie of the Year. Has looked great. Let's see, 4 touchdowns, 18 catches, 282 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's looked really good so far. The thing is, the Bucs again, throughout the large majority of the game, don't seem like that they're all together. And then all of a sudden everything ties in and they have a couple of great drives and they're now even for the year because they only won their first 3 games by a combined 6 points. They just lost by 6 points. So they're not a team that's blowing anybody away. It doesn't seem like that they're going to be a team that really pulls away from anybody. They're going to but here's where a good team will do something different. The Saints, where they keep it close, are losing games. The Bucs have been winning up until this point in time. So, again, an interesting story for them because they just seem to put everything together in the last 2 minutes, and then that's it. The Lions at home, 34-10 over the Cleveland Browns. Again, not really. I think they need to be done with Joe Flacco. I've said it. We're 4 games in. You're 1-3. Yes, you got to win against the Packers. Fantastic. Your defense looks pretty good. Your offense can't move to save their life. And 16 of 34, 184 yards, 2 interceptions for Joe Flacco. I think it's time. You got to try out the kids. You got to try them out. Lions, they were up, 20-7 at halftime. Again, Jared Goff didn't have to do a whole hell of a lot. Jahmyr Gibbs almost had 100 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 catches, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown he's in the category with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. He's in that category. Where I still value the 2 other ones, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a huge, huge factor for this offense. And it's fun to watch him. He can beat you deep if you need to. He can run great routes and get past people. So, Lions, I think, still upper echelon of the NFL. Obviously, week 1 loss, but upper echelon of the NFL still. Jacksonville goes on the road and beats the San Francisco 49ers 31-21. Trevor Lawrence, 21 of 31, 174 yards. Again, not blowing you away. Brock Purdy, 309 yards, but 2 interceptions. So, first game back after a couple. There is no quarterback controversy. Let's get past this now. Bunch of fumbles. And again, this team defensively is banged up. Obviously, Brock Purdy coming back after being off for 2 weeks. 49ers, they're still 3-1. So let's not count them out quite yet. But very, very different team than what we saw a few years ago. Daniel Jones loses his first game as the Colts starting quarterback. The Colts lose their first game, go to 3-1 as they lose 27-20. And there was a couple of different ways this was going to go. Either they're going to get blown out by the Rams and we're going to go, they're back to earth. Either they were going to win and we're going to go team of destiny, whatever it was. Or we're going to keep it close and we were going to go, okay, maybe there's still some hiccups within this, but the Colts are still the Colts right now. And they still looked okay. Daniel Jones did throw 2 interceptions, one of the better defenses that he's playing, whereas Denver's hasn't looked great like we were expecting. Matthew Stafford, 375 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Matthew Stafford of old, just can control the game, pick teams apart. Puka Nacua, 13 catches, 170 yards. MVP conversation for him as well right now. He has over 500 yards already, or 4 games in. Only 1 touchdown, though, and that came against the Colts. I think the Colts, let's take a look at who they have coming up. Raiders, winnable game. Cardinals, winnable game. Chargers, I think, are a winnable game, especially where they just lost to the Giants. And then the Titans and the Steelers. So, again, all winnable games coming up over your next 5. I think you'd be happy with 4-1. I think you'd be really happy with 4-1. I think you'd be okay with 3-2. The Rams, on the other hand, if we take a look at them, 49ers, winnable game. Ravens, right now, is a winnable game. And I would have told you, hey, probably would have been the Ravens as favorites and everything else like that, just by the preseasons and the roster, build and everything else like that. But it's a very winnable game against the Ravens. Jaguars, winnable game. Saints, winnable game. And the 49ers again. So the Rams have the ability to go 5-0 over the next 5. Again, happy. I think you're happy with 4-1. Next, we have the game. What was supposed to be the game of the week turned into a very tough watch as a Baltimore Ravens fan. The Chiefs are 2-2. After going 0-2, they've won 2 straight. They won 37-20 over the Ravens, who are 1-3. And I believe the statistic going from a 2-2 team, which you have about a 34% chance of making the playoffs, to a 1-3 team is about 13%. I think they put that up during the Patriots game because both teams were 1-2 or whatever it was. Anyway, Lamar Jackson leaves the game injured. Was 14 of 20, 147 yards, touchdown and interception. Patrick Mahomes looked like Patrick Mahomes, 25 of 37. Again, not throwing the ball all over the place. Xavier Worthy was back, which was huge. 2 rushes for 38 yards on that. And then he also led the team in receptions and receiving yards, or he tied in receptions with Travis Kelce. The Ravens have a lot of defensive starters out. A lot. And, again, injuries to me aren't the excuse, but when you're talking about 6 out of 11 starters are out and you're referring to your depth and stuff like that, which for a team that's paying so much for Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, the guys that they have, Marlon Humphrey on defense and stuff like that, we're talking about not having the most depth on your team. Once you get past, especially numerous starters, you're relying on guys that have faults or that haven't developed or are brand new and are making mistakes, right? The Chiefs are still in this. They're not going to go away. I mentioned it a bunch of times. With Patrick Mahomes still in your backfield as your quarterback, you're not going away. But as of right now, they look like they're going to kind of turn around a little bit. 37 points. For as flawlessly as they seem to have been playing through a lot of the series that I was watching, better than what we've seen. The stagnant offense here or there that we see from them didn't look like it was a problem against the Ravens. Ravens next 5. Texans, still a winnable game. Rams, that's a tougher game. Right now, I don't think they'd be favored, especially if Lamar's not playing. Bears, winnable game. Dolphins, winnable game. Vikings, winnable game. So, at the end of these 5 games, they're very, very well could go 5-0, especially if Lamar is still playing. That puts them at what, 6-3? Okay, still not the greatest, and you're still in a position that you're going to be probably playing on Wild Card Weekend, but could be worse. Let's see where we're at now. Bears escape with a win against the Raiders, 25-24. Caleb, better. Still made a mistake. Geno Smith still threw 3 interceptions. That shouldn't be this close. Ashton Genty ran all over you. Raheem Mostert averaged 15 yards a carry with his 4 carries. So that run defense a little suspect. Not a great rushing attack by the Bears. Rome Odunze still looks really good. 2 fumbles, you're lucky you recovered them, Caleb. This team is not going to be. This team is not going to set records and do all these different things. I keep speaking to the development of players and everything else like that. Finding a way to win against a team like this, great. They made a lot of mistakes, though. You should have been far and away better than this. But again, we're still waiting for that kind of turning the corner type thing. But better. Better. You know, that's what you want to come out and say. Better. They played better. Las Vegas is what they are. And again, they've already beaten the Patriots, so again, that says what it is, what you need to. But they're not going to grow as a team. They're pretty much what they are. Whereas the Patriots can be different, the Bears can be different because they have that ability. Geno Smith is not the guy there. And Pete Carroll's going to stick with him because it's his guy. It's been his guy for a few years, especially when he was with Seattle. But Kenny Pickett is probably your better option if we go and we take a look. I mean, I think that's what you have to do. Kenny Pickett can't be this much worse because I think Geno has 7 interceptions already in 4 games. I'm sorry, but you got to move on from that. And I appreciate the resiliency that Geno had in his career, leaving the Jets and not being successful, getting to Seattle, taking over and running with it, and being the starter in this league for a few years, and having his success and stuff like that. But then the interesting game was the Sunday night game where it ended in a 40-40 tie, which in the NFL is still weird to me. I think they should adopt that college football overtime type of scenario. It makes more exciting. It makes it more exciting and everything else like that. Jordan Love looked much better, but the Cowboys being able to come back. I mean, Dak Prescott only missed 9 passes all game. Javonte Williams still looks pretty good. 312 yards, 6th best rushing yards in the league, 4 touchdowns. George Pickens had a night, 2 touchdowns, 134 yards. Romeo Doubs, 6 catches, 58 yards, so less than 10 yards a catch, but 3 touchdowns. So he looked pretty good. The defense for the Packers did not look great comparative to. Now they've lost a game against a team they shouldn't have lost to. They've tied a game against a team I don't think they should have tied. But Dallas, again, finds ways to have these good games, and you start going, oh, the Cowboys are still there, and they're probably not. But now this puts a kind of wrinkle in those divisions with the tie on each one of these teams. But interesting. I don't like the tie concept. I never have. I understand it because of the violence of the stress on each athlete's body type of games. But I think if we did the college football, maybe you move it back, maybe you do the 40. You're on their side of the 40, and now you got to stop them or whatever. It may be something like that, but I think the overtime rules got to change. And I know that they've addressed it a few times, and it's not passed. So we'll see what happens. Monday night. Two games that probably nobody really wanted to watch. Dolphins get their first win at home, 27-21 over the Jets. Justin Fields had a fumble. The offense fumbled on their first two possessions completely. But Justin Fields didn't play bad. 20 of 27, 226 yards, a touchdown, didn't throw an interception. Ran the ball, ran for a touchdown. Breece Hall, both of them ran for 81 yards. Garrett Wilson had a great catch for a touchdown. It's just making those small little changes. Tua wasn't, 17 of 25, good. 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. Okay, no interceptions, almost 100 yards for Devon Achane. Tyreek Hill, 6 catches, 67 yards, but out for the year. And for those of you who watch the injury, gross looking injury, one of those. But he's done for the year. Good for the Dolphins to get their first win. You're still in a lot of trouble. And now you're in even worse trouble because now you lose Tyreek. You have Jalen Waddle, who's going to have to step up. Darren Waller, 3 catches, 2 of them were touchdowns. Good for him. One of those good stories from Darren Waller, from where he's come from to all these different things. But a couple of fumbles on the Miami side as well. So, again, definitely not a clean win. And by only winning by 6 points, I think you kind of proved that. Now, New York scored in a 2-point conversion towards the end of the game and stuff like that. Again, not a clean win. And I think you're probably in worse shape than you were going into that game with the loss of Tyreek. So that's kind of where we're at with the Dolphins. And I think the Dolphins and the Jets are going to third and fourth, which is great for me as a Patriots fan. Jake Browning and the Bengals, 28-3 loss. No offense there. For all the weapons they have, Jake Browning, what we thought would develop into at least a decent quarterback, at least for the times that he's had to play in the past, he's looked all right. Not great. It is not a great offense. Chase Brown ran 10 times 40 yards. T. Higgins, 3 catches. Jamar Chase had 5 catches, but only for 23 yards. Again, you're not getting the ball down the field. Everything is check down, 5 yards and in, 5 yards and in, 5 yards and in. And they're trying to chip away at things. For a Denver Broncos defense that we expect to be good, this was played right into their hands. J.K. Dobbins looked great for the Broncos, 101 yards. Bo Nix, 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. Again, still making some mistakes here or there. His 4 interceptions through the first 4 games. Cortland Sutherland played well, 5 catches, 81 yards, touchdown. The other touchdown went to R.J. Harvey out of the backfield. I think the Denver Broncos are starting to turn a corner a little bit where they look a little cleaner. And what I mean by that is everything looks like it's flowing better. Bengals, again, not the greatest litmus test of that. But a win's a win. They're 2-0 at home, 2-2 overall. Didn't get, had obviously given some games away. But one of the other things I wanted to discuss, and I purposely didn't bring it up when I talked about the Giants, is Malik Neighbors. And Malik Neighbors is done for the year with his own torn ACL. And for those of you who don't know, there's a lot of articles out there about the curse of MetLife Stadium. And the story, at least dumbed down and shortened for time restraints, I guess, is that the turf at MetLife Stadium was so bad before. They've replaced it recently, a couple of years ago, I believe. And there's still a whole bunch of these injuries happening. And I went back and did a little research because that's what I'm supposed to do, right? Is that MetLife Stadium, since 2020, has had 15 of these types of injuries. The next closest stadium is Cleveland Stadium, the Browns Stadium. Forgive me for not knowing what the proper name is off the top of my head. Has 6. So you're going from one stadium who has an average of 3 of these types of injuries a year on that field to the next one, which is just barely over 1 a year. So since 2020, this is, I think there's 15 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, there's 16. Sorry, there's 16 here. Nick Bosa had an ACL injury. I have the years too. It's not on the computer screen, which is weird, but I have him here. Nick Bosa in 2020 tore his ACL. Solomon Thomas, offensive lineman for the Giants, 2020 tore his ACL. Blake Martinez in 2021 tore his ACL. Raheem Mostert had an MCL tear. Sterling Shepard had an Achilles tear and an ACL tear. I don't have these on this list. I have one of them in 2022. Then they've jumped around a whole bunch. 2021, Blake Martinez torn ACL, like I said. Jabril Peppers torn Achilles. Ruptured ACL. James Robinson, the running back, 2021, torn Achilles. Juwan James, torn Achilles in 2022. The other 2022s were Kyle Fuller, Sterling Shepard, as I mentioned, Wendell Robinson, who now is going to have to be the number one receiver. Dwayne Smoot, torn Achilles in 2022. Darren Beavers, torn ACL. Some other guys that they have, Blake Martinez, Shane Lemieux, Aaron Rodgers, torn Achilles in 2023. Jalen Phillips, torn Achilles in 2023. Malik Neighbors, torn ACL this year. And Andrew Thomas, a lymph rack injury, whatever that is, because I am not a doctor. The artificial turf there obviously is poor. And they won't change it and go to a real field because they want to have concerts and everything like that in MetLife Stadium. So they're never going to change it. Ownership should look into it because this is a curse. 15 to 16 people with these types of injuries in 5 years is a lot. A lot. And it's tough because sorry. A statement from our executive director, Lloyd Howell, on NFL Field Sources. So the NFLPA executive director, Lloyd Howell, came out and said, moving all stadium fields to high-quality natural grass surfaces is the easiest decision the NFL can make. The players overwhelmingly prefer it, and the data is clear that the grass is simply safer than artificial turf. It is an issue that has been near the top of the players' list during my team visits and one I have raised with the NFL. So it's been brought up quite a few times. And again, I don't think it'll ever happen because these surfaces and stuff like that want to provide for concerts and everything else like that. And the best way to do that is to have artificial turf underneath everything. Because if you put real grass, it is going to kill it, it is going to damage it, it is going to do all those different things that you don't want to have happen during an NFL season. Pretty self-explanatory. But we have a curse in the NFL. We have a curse, and it's MetLife Stadium. Next. So this is the segment now, the new segment we're going to call the anti-narrative. And the narrative that I have picked for the first one is Tyquan Thornton. And this goes for me because obviously Tyquan Thornton was a second-round draft pick of the New England Patriots and didn't do a whole hell of a lot. From 2024, he had a grand total of 39 receptions for like 400 yards. So again, not a ton. He had 2 touchdowns, not a ton and stuff like that. But he was a vertical threat with a lengthy catch radius and blistering speed. That was what he was drafted to be. And the narrative right now, and I've seen it a couple of different places, and I'm not going to mention the writers and stuff like that, and say that I'm arguing with them or the articles and stuff like that, only simply because I think they're written well. I think the opinion is there, and they're allowed to have the opinion from the opposite perspective, right? We all understand that everybody's allowed to have that other opinion than what I have. But the articles are Tyquan Thornton is showing the Patriots what they're missing. And would I like Tyquan Thornton and what he brings to the Patriots right now in that wide receiver room? Sure. I think a more vertical threat is something that could be useful on this young Patriots team. But he's not showing them anything else, anything new. Tyquan Thornton this season, 10 catches. So 4 games, he has 10 catches. 182 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, he has the second most yards that he's ever had in a season right now through 4 games, 182. He has the highest average he's ever had in his career, 18.2. And the most touchdowns he's ever had in a year with 3. Good for him. I'm happy for Tyquan Thornton. I'm happy that he has moved to a team that allowed him some time to develop and could work with his not great hands, but utilized his speed and utilized him for exactly probably what the Patriots had drafted him to do. The Patriots just needed him to be more than what he is. If you're telling me he's showing the Patriots or he's showing another team or he's showing what he can do, we already knew this. And I don't think he's not blowing the doors off of anything. And let's be honest. Let's be honest with ourselves. Xavier Worthy was out. Rasheed Rice has been out. Somebody has to be the guy that catches the football. It's like the analogy that I have in my head is the fact that in the NBA, if you're on a bad team, somebody has to be the leading scorer. And your statistics will be padded to that somebody has to take the shots. Somebody has to eventually score. Your team's not going to score nothing. The offense isn't going to not move the ball with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback, but somebody has to catch them. And Tyquan Thornton did that in that time frame in which Xavier Worthy was out and everything else like that. Good for him. I'm happy for him. And he even mentioned talking about, he went on and he talked about young players and not being successful early and avoiding Twitter and avoiding all those different things because those are the things that are going to drag you down. And I totally understand that. And I totally understand that he wasn't in the greatest of situations where he had Mac Jones on his start of his decline in New England. And then last year, starting out the year with Jacoby Brissett. And not getting a Drake May that we're seeing right now. But don't tell me that he's showing up his previous team. He's having more success. Absolutely. But at no point in time is he doing anything different than what was expected of him. And I'm sure in New England, there was a higher expectation being a reach in the second round for him. According to all the analysts and stuff like that, the Patriots reached for him, and he was supposed to be a day 3 guy. They reached for him in the second round, and he just didn't pan out. Because he goes back to now being a backup, with Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and Juju Smith-Schuster being the guys. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets behind Jalen Royals at some point. But, yes, the talent is there. And for the type of offense that the Chiefs run, is he better suited? Absolutely. But let's not make the mistake here that he is some sort of now Pro Bowl, bound player, because he's not. Is he still going to have that impact of being able to get past people and everything else like that? 100%. And I'm happy that he's found some success considering where it looked like from this perspective as a fan that he was just a bust from the beginning. And do I think that he'd be playing better now with Drake May playing the way he is? Yes. But again, we're not at a point where he's showing anybody up. We're not at a point where he's this league-leading wide receiver or Pro Bowl bound or completely rejuvenated player where he's pushing people down the depth chart, because he's not doing it. He's not. And from this past game, he led the team in receiving against the Giants. Against the Giants. In the let's take a look. Against the Chargers, the first game. 2 catches, 41 yards. Again, that comes on the heels of Xavier Worthy getting knocked out. Next. 2 catches, 59 yards with a touchdown. Again, that's what he was. You get down the field, we'll throw it up, you go get it. That's against the Eagles. Had to be wide receiver 1 against the Giants. 5 catches, 71 yards. 1 touchdown. Cool. This past week, now that Xavier Worthy's back, 1 catch, 11 yards for a touchdown. Again, still touchdown. Still 3 straight games he's caught a touchdown. I don't want to see these articles of this player showing this team up. And it could have been this just happened to hit closer for me because I noticed it. I watched it over the last couple of years. But he's starting to show people up. He's not. He's doing the things that were expected of him from the beginning. This is the type of player he is. If you're looking for him to run a complicated route, it's not great for you. Can he do different things? You get the ball in his hand, can he outrun you? Absolutely. Can he outrun most cornerbacks? Absolutely. Can he go get a football that is thrown further? Absolutely. But he hasn't changed the NFL. He hasn't changed the Chiefs. He hasn't changed from what he was drafted to do. He just has better things around him. Patrick Mahomes, much better than Mac Jones and Jacoby Brissett. Probably better than both of them put together. You take every best skill from those two, Patrick Mahomes is still probably better. An offense that fits his style more. Absolutely. That's the question that I have going into all this is, why was he drafted in a situation that called for something different? But I'm happy for him. I'm glad that he's having success with the Chiefs, but he's not changing the narrative of what he was. He hasn't done anything different. Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots has added a catch out of the backfield element that we haven't seen. That has changed. Now, he's also still fumbling the football every fucking time he touches the ball, except for this week. But let's pump the brakes on players like this. He's showing them up. He's not. He's got 10 catches in 4 games. Yes, he has 3 touchdowns. Great. He's averaging 18 yards a catch. Awesome. Not anything different than what he was supposed to be. So I wish him all the success in the world. I do. And again, keep doing what you're good at and keep doing the things that you're good at and everything else like that. And by no means do I think that he can't do those things, become a Pro Bowler or for, whatever. But I just don't see it right now. And I'm allowed to have that opinion. I'm allowed to say that. And I'm allowed to use this as the backup to, hey, he has 10 catches this year. Hold on a second before he's changed everything. Let's hold on. Let's not start putting that on him. Yes, let's celebrate the success that he's had. Unfortunately, it took going to the Chiefs to have that success, and that sucks as a Patriots fan, and that sucks as, showing these draft picks of how bad they've been over the last umpteenth years. But I'm glad that he's had some success, and I'm glad he can do it on the team. But they have arguably the best quarterback in the league, right? Vastly different situation. But with that, again, we're going to end there. Thank you for listening to Anti-Narrative for for the first one. That was the first ever anti-narrative segment. You'll see some messes behind us. One of the main things that we're changing is we're moving the studio. Still be called Loftside Banter. Don't worry, none of that's changing. And that's Loftside, BANTR.com, where you can go to visit for all that. You can visit email at loftsidebanter@gmail.com. You can visit me for Top of 2012 on Whatnot for cards and everything else like that. That has kind of gone hand in hand with the podcast. And we're hopefully going to having some people on that are more in tune to the card collecting community and everything else like that, and give that kind of a platform as well. We're going to work on all of that over the next couple of weeks. I have fallen behind on people that I've talked to, so if I've talked to you about being on here and doing interviews and stuff like that, we will get to that. It is figuring out what the best course of action will be, whether it's a live in studio thing or, a Teams meeting, if you will. All right, we will get this one out to you guys, and then the next episode, hopefully for Saturday, I have picked up actual work, as most people will say this is an actual work for me. Not yet, anyway. And we'll have something out to you guys. We'll watch Thursday Night Football. I'll get that probably recorded, and then that way I'm adding Saturday's college football slates and stuff like that. But thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.